Hi, my name is Tiffany Romrell, and my subject that I'm going to teach you guys about is class versus ID selectors. Now, some of you may be wondering, but what are selectors? Um, I don't know how many of you know how to do this, and some of you are just beginners in this class, I'm assuming. And you may have been wondering how you might be able to select specific parts of your code. So this is what this is going to go over, is a couple of selectors that you can use for this. So first one that we're going to go over here is the ID selector here. So over here I have the definition of an ID tag. The definition and usage is the ID attribute specifies a unique ID for an HTML element. The value must be unique within the HTML document. The ID attribute is most used to point to a style in a style sheet, meaning CSS, and by JavaScript via the HTML DOM to manipulate the element with the specific ID. So basically what this means is that with an ID selector, it will specify one specific element in your code. So next selector we have is the class selector here. So and also we have the definition and usage here, which means the class attribute specifies one or more class names for an element. The class attribute is mostly used to point to a class in a style sheet, also CSS. However, it can also be used by a JavaScript via the HTML DOM to make changes to HTML elements with a specified class. Now, as you can kind of see, the difference here says specific ID, of course, but right here it says the value must be unique within the HTML document. So next, what's the difference then? Basically, what this means is the ID selector chooses just one specific element, and with the class selector, you can change more than one element in your code. So, like I just said, the ID is for just one element, the class is for more than one element. Now, next I have right here are some examples. So for the ID selectors in HTML, this is what it would look like right here. So you got your ID equals and question marks, example 1, let's say, is the name of this selector. Now this is within a paragraph tag right here. So normally this would look like this right here. That's your paragraph, right? But if you were to have this right here, that's what will, this will be the selector that will change what this specific one or this specific paragraph will look like. Now, when you go over here, you have it in CSS. So this is how it would look like in CSS, and let's say you wanted to change the background of this paragraph specifically. So, and you got the pound symbol right here, and you also have the example 1, which is what this says right here. That's the name of the ID, so that will go right there in the CSS. And in the brackets, let's say it's background color. Normally, that will just be like that. It's not usually capital. And so you have the background color. And you'll have this colon right here, and then you'll have number, and it's the hex number, I believe is what it's called, and a semicolon afterward. Now you can have more than one thing for this too. So let's say you just wanted to, I don't know, maybe font size. And you want it to be like 3 EM or whatnot, you know? You would also have it like that. So it can do more than just the one thing there. You can have more than one thing that's changed with it. So now with the class selector, right here, an example of this. So you have the class right here. So also like with how the paragraph is, if you wanted, or the original would look like that. But with the class selector, it should look something like this. And you can change these names, just letting you guys know. So let's say you wanted to change this to just EX, for example, you know. And this one would be changed as well to EX so that it's the same, because you want both of these paragraphs to have the same changes. And also right here, you would want this to be the same as what this says right here, because that's the name of that selector. And like I mentioned, with the ID versus class selectors, the ID will only choose one, or it can only select one, and then the class selector can choose more than one. So even if you wanted to, you could say add another paragraph to this here, and this would be, say, example 3. And so all 3 of these would have this change right here, or difference in the styling right there. Now, mind you, if you were to do 2 paragraphs with the same ID, I've done this before, I've tried it before anyway, to see what it will look like. And if you use this in a validator, and like I mentioned, you have 2 paragraphs with the same ID, then there will be an error in your coding, and it more than likely won't work how you want it to. So this is why you would use the class selector here. So that's basically the differences between those two. Now, another question that might come up, can you use both at the same time? And the answer is yes. Over here it says, there's nothing stopping you from having both an ID and a class on a single element. In fact, it is often a very good idea to take for example, the default markup for a WordPress comment list item. So it would look like this. So you have a list right here. That's a list tag, you know. And you have an ID of comment-27299. And then you have the class, which is named item. Then it says it has a class applied to it that you may want for styling all comments on the page. So if you have more than one list on the item, which is more than likely, then you would be able to use this selector for all of them. But it also has a unique ID value dynamically generated by WordPress, nicely enough. This ID value is useful for direct linking. Now I can link directly to a particular comment on a particular page easily. So let's say that you wanted to select just one part of the list, then you can use the ID for that. It would choose that specific list item. So this is what I have. If you guys have any questions, I'm willing to answer to the best of my ability. I'm certain there's others that know some of these as well. And yeah, here's what I have. Thank you.